In my fist, a coin of air to buy my health from the government. In my coin, a fist of poison that ruptures the alveoli of the lungs, their soft weight gone sponge and futile. In my cells, a glut of oil that ruptures the alleles governing skin color, bone density, resilience against infection. In my government, a wealth of disease, illness, a coin. In my body, a prophylaxis the government pays for, $67 a pill to the drug company. In my pill, a government squadron of cops beating the blood into order. In my cops, a medicine that reddens the eyes, traps fat in the gut, an ocean I cannot catalog, creatures flapping their saline wings, the flesh erases itself, the orifices become more prominent, swallowing, develop minds of their own, new social norms, new forms of governance. In my social norms, an orifice, a fist made of air, a coin clattering to the ground. On one side, a face, on the other, a branch, a building, a state bird. In my buildings, security and fear. In my body, a metal detector, refrigeration trucks pulled up to the hospital so corpses can be stacked inside, an invisible coin falling through invisible fingers, profit from the manufacture of an unproven drug, an invisible finger edges the capsule down my throat. My body relies on other bodies for its safety. Invisibly, clusters of pins stab the map of Black neighborhoods, a glut of oil in the economy. My government can't unload, an ambulance made of air, a king, a medicine, a policy, a rescue made of air. On the internet, dicks made of air, in an inbox made of air, sprout coins electric in my open hand, my tongue a coin I can't exchange, my government a disease, my cops rupturing. In my fist an economy, in my scream an erasure, white, in my lungs a vibrator, in my vibrator a rupture made of air, an intimacy, erasure, a history, a violence, a fist. How often have I told you my hand is empty, as though it were not a weapon, for its color, for its shape, its history, a fist. In my cops, in my government, in my lungs, in my medicine, in my gut, in my health, your health, the lungs curled petal-like around each other. In your fist, my fist, the collapse of a regime, a new world made of air, glimmering through this one, nearly there.
Thank you, C. Bain, for that incredibly powerful reading to kick off this Red Hen Press Poetry Hour this evening, presented to you by the Broad Stage. I'm your host, Sandra Tsing Loh, and the theme of tonight's show couldn't be more urgent, couldn't be more timely: modern feminism, RBG and beyond. To introduce the show, I'd like to welcome, as usual, Red Hen Press co-founder and managing editor, Kate Gale. Welcome, Kate.
Good to be here. Good to see you.
Hello, good to see you. And of course, we also welcome artistic and executive director of the Broad Stage, Rob Bayless. Hello, Rob.
How are you?
There you are. Good to see you. Oh my gosh, you guys. I mean, this is an incredible evening. It's less than a week since our notorious RBG's passing. And here you guys have been working on this evening about modern feminism and women's rights and humans' rights and selves and bodies for months and months by coincidence. And, you know, and back, I think when you were starting to talk about it, RBG was still going at it strong on the Supreme Court, beating cancer, it seemed, for the umpteenth time, doing her incredible workouts. She was an enjoyer of opera. She was wearing a different collar to signify her different decisions. So I'm wearing kind of an RBG kind of outfit today. I'm trying to kind of channel that. So at first, it was like, is there a connection? But I think once we started talking it through, there was actually a surprising and strong connection between RBG's, legacy of feminism and women's rights and human rights, and some of the work we're going to be talking about tonight.
Absolutely. I think that what we're talking about tonight is women who are taking a great leap forward in their lives. We have Judy Grahn, who is a foremother of feminism, and we're taking that all the way forward through many voices. You've just heard C. Bain. Amber Flame is a younger feminist. I think of her, how much work has been done to get us to this point. RBG said that the high court would not be perfect until there were 9 women sitting on it. And if you think that's outrageous, think about how long we had 9 men sitting on it. Right. And I think that we are in a time of great change in this country, and it feels dirty, it feels messy, it feels very painful right now. But that is how times of great change feel. The other phrase of hers that keeps coming back to me is that great change is when daughters are as beloved as sons, and you think of how in the patriarchy. One of the things about the patriarchy is that we wait for sons and we resist having daughters. But of course, our daughters are beloved, and that's part of what this evening is about, is our beloved daughters and our beloved women and our beloved gender fluid women and the great work they're doing in this country.
Rob?
There were so many things that went into the making of this that were, as you say, at times totally intentional and at times just magically aligned. From the Broad Stage perspective, one of the cornerstones of how we were thinking about this all along was the introduction of Monique Jenkinson, who's on our season and is equally beloved and known as Fauxnique. I was just thinking about what a privilege it's been for me to watch her journey and how much it has the last 20 years and what's happened, how much is different. I mean, this is a classically trained ballet dancer that makes a meteoric and historic into the world as a cisgendered woman into the world of male drag in the early 2000s, and then comes out of that as this exquisite performance artist and solo theater maker, and now is going to be sharing a bit of her book, of her memoir. And just thinking about that whole trajectory of what's changed, how much is possible, and who's been at the vanguard is something that I think, particularly now that we are, as Kate beautifully points out, so not just hungry for change, urgently in need of it. We're beyond the point of desire here, we're into desperation. And I think, quite frankly, there's very little question that it's women who are going to save the day, and I hope save this country. So it's an incredible thrill for me to be here tonight and see this all come together, and everyone's got so hard on this. I think it's going to be a great night.
Yeah, and I think that Monique Fauxnique has talked about feminine tropes as both oppressive and empowering. So there's a lot of interesting dualities. There's sexuality and spirituality, motherhood and magic, as we'll see. I think these dualities are really interesting, and that's part of the play that will be going on today. So thank you both for setting that up so nicely. So you can now pour yourself your glass of whatever and enjoy from here. And that brings us to our very first guest today, which is the wonderful Judy Grahn. So you'll get a 1-minute intro for each person. Sorry, something just fell. A poet, writer, teacher, and cultural theorist, Judy Grahn is a foremother of feminist, gay, and lesbian liberation movements and of the field of women's spirituality. Earlier nonfiction books include Another Mother Tongue, Gay Words, Gay Worlds, and Blood, Bread, and Roses. Wait for it. How Menstruation Created the World. Oh, yes. Her memoir is A Simple Revolution, The Making of an Activist Poet. Grahn's work has been anthologized in collections from W.W. Norton and Company, Penguin Books, Pengrove, Oxford University Press, and more. And fun fact, she has been Grand Marshal of 2 gay pride parades. How awesome is that? Her work is promoted by the Commonality Institute. Her articles on metaformic theory are archived online at Metaformia, a journal of menstruation and culture. Welcome, Judy. Welcome.
Hi, Sandra. I'm so happy to be here tonight and to hear your curiosity about some of this work that I've been that has just carried me through my life, frankly, ever since the feminist storm picked me up and swept me off. I've been off ever since.
We love that. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First, before we get to, I want to talk a little, since this is such an intergenerational evening, about what it was like when you got started, how you got swept up by the storm in the 60s, I believe. But I want to know a little bit about menstruation and culture. Okay, so how does that work? Explain to our viewers what that connection is, how menstruation, from everything flows from it, I guess.
Well, I was very taken with that at the beginning of my journey with feminism, which was started in late 1969, and we were just reclaiming everything. I decided to reclaim menstruation as well as lesbianism. You know, why not go for everything? And and then I began to follow that trail, and I followed it for 23 more years, and produced a book called, with the subtitle, as you said, How Menstruation Created the World. And I'm realizing now that my project has been replacing old worn out origin stories with something new. And that's what metaformic theory is. It posits that we are ritual beings, and that we have been ritual beings from the beginning of our journey as humans. And ritual, the basis and the center of ritual is menstruation. That is the root of the word. It's a Sanskrit word. So as ritual beings, we all have rituals, and men and women have them differently because of biology. And because men synchronize themselves up with the women in their lives, who saw that their cycles were connected with the lunar cycle. And that pulled the human mind outside of itself in brand new ways. So we surround ourselves with our minds. All these cultural objects around us hold our ideas. And the menstrual piece of it is that the rituals differ from each other. Men's rituals, which include surgery, they include making people bleed, they include hunting, there are all kinds of things like that. Women's rituals included seclusions. Seclusions are like cornucopias of human culture. And menstruation was revered as a power all over the world in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cultures. It's only recently that it's been disparaged or called the curse. And then one of the pieces of this idea that I find really intriguing is that these rituals fall out of sync with each other, and the genders don't understand each other anymore. And so there are what you might call third genders, multiples of us who will fall in the middle somewhere, who help to weave these things together, which is in part what I'm doing by just simply re-honoring menstruation and reestablishing some of its powers. That's the short version.
I love that you say that. My alma mater is Caltech, and I do some science communication, science reporting. And I was one time sitting in a computer science class, and the professor said, you know, the earliest jawbone they found of cavemen's time had 29 notches in it. He goes, why? And it was mostly a class I didn't know. And he said that's an illustration. So likely the first mathematician was a woman because she had to count the days. So that was,
that seems likely.
Very fun. very fun to think about. So, and you were going to read something for us this evening. Will you?
Oh yes, I'll read. Can I read more than one thing? I want to read a tribute. This is just something I wrote in general back in 1972 when my task was to exalt women no matter what. And I thought for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I would read this just as my tiny little tribute to her. It's called A Geology Lesson. Here, the sea strains to climb up on the land, and the wind blows dust in a single direction. The trees bend themselves all one way, and volcanoes explode often. Why is this? Many years back, a woman of strong purpose passed through this section, and everything else tried to follow. So that's my tribute to her. Because of your interest in metaformic theory, it's irresistible to me to read this poem as a tribute to menstruation. After doing a lot of research about the connection between menstruation and everything that we call food, and the ways that women in particular, women farmers, and identified with plants as menstruating mothers like themselves and formed relationships with them. So this is, it's just simply a tribute to menstruation. It's saying all praises to the blood of creation, the blood of peace, the blood of new beginning, the blood of zero population growth, the blood of I don't have to go to work today, the blood of meditative space, the blood of the first covenant, the blood of the first paint, the blood of the first lipstick, the blood of the first hair color, the blood of the first cave art, the blood of the first calendar, the blood of the first Sabbath, the blood of the first procession, the blood of the first food, the blood of the first communion, the blood of the first word, the blood of the red corn mother, the blood of the red carrot mother, the blood of the red wheat mother, the blood of the red rice mother, the blood of the red millet mother, the blood of the red grape mother, the blood of the red wine mother, the blood of the red turmeric mother, the blood of the red yam mother, the blood of the red clay mother, the blood of the red saffron mother, the blood of the red apple mother, the blood of the red pomegranate mother, the blood of the red ochre mother, the blood of the red chocolate mother, the blood of the red coffee mother, the blood of the red pepper mother, the blood of the bleeding tree mother, the blood of the bleeding stone mother, the blood of the menstruating river mother, the blood of the menstruating volcano mother, the blood of the menstruating moon mother, the blood of the menstruating earth mother, the blood of the menstruating cosmos mother. If I had a bowl of menstrual blood, I'd take it outside and give it a long, long, bloody, peaceful parade. So that's my tribute to menstruation. And one more piece, I want to read this for Toby, because I understand Toby Harper from Red Hen, that this was one of her favorite poems back in her earlier days. And it's back in my earlier days too, when I was trying to figure out what it was to be a lesbian, and we called ourselves dykes, and we called ourselves warriors. I am the wall at the lip of the water. I am the rock that refused to be battered. I am the dyke in the matter, the other. I am the wall with the womanly swagger. I am the dragon, the dangerous dagger. I'm the bull dyke, the bull dagger. And I have been many a wicked grandmother, and I shall be many a wicked daughter. So that's my reading for this evening.
That is so fantastic. Thank you so much. That's really, really amazing. And I think an amazing start to this particular hour of discussion. And Judy will be back at the end for a group discussion at about 1:45. And if you're just joining us, this is the Red Hen Press Poetry Hour presented by the Broad Stage. So next up, we welcome to the show Amber Flame. A former church kid from the Southwest, Amber Flame is an interdisciplinary creative, activist, and educator whose work explores spirituality and sexuality, motherhood and magic, and interstitial joy. Don't forget that. A 2-time Pushcart Prize nominee, Amber Flame's debut poetry collection was Ordinary Cruelty. Her second book of poetry, Apocrypha, is forthcoming from Red Hen Press. Flame has worked for over, and her acclaimed solo show, I should say, is Hands Above the Covers, one of the best titles of all time. For more than 15 years, Flame has worked in education equity, Black media, youth empowerment, and with women and youth impacted by incarceration. Recently named program director for Hedgebrook, Amber Flame is, and I quote, "I have to. A queer Black mama just one magic trick away from growing her unicorn horn." Welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much, Sandra. A wicked daughter indeed.
We're a multitude. I love that. And you have a daughter also, right? Yes,
I do.
I have two children, some gender fluidity there. Okay, so I want to just start out that you had curated, you have so many forms that you work in, so many genres. And in 2018, I believe you co-curated the show Black Imagination at Seattle's Score Gallery. And I just, that phrase, if I could just ask, what does the phrase Black imagination mean for you? How does it resonate? What issues were you thinking about when co-curating that show?
Absolutely. It's a project that Natasha Marin spearheaded and has gone on to become a book and all kinds of ritual spaces. So check out Black Imagination just in general. But at the time it was what happens when you remove the white gaze? What happens when Black people are encouraged to imagine a world in which they are healthy and safe and loved? And it's a removal for healing. That's how I think of it. It's a ritual for removing the gaze that dictates or judges or primes the space in any way, and what freedom is allowed then.
So the imagination is like essentially creating a new space, a different space than the ordinary societal or cultural one that's set up.
Exactly, outside of the systemic oppressions that are there. Yes.
So if I can ask, and we're going to be hearing some of your incredible work shortly. I mean, when you create, do you have a sense of being yourself in your own space? Do you find yourself always aware of what gazes are coming at you, white or other? What is your creative process?
No, I can't. I take a leaf out of Prince's book and just create the world that I want to live in, create the being that I want to be. I speak a lot about, around motherhood, I speak a lot about losing my mother and how that has allowed a freedom. Because when you are not worried about your mother judging you, then really what can anybody else say? And so I'm free in that way. That's one of the gifts. So one of the unfortunate gifts is that I do it because I need to for myself, and that's absolutely a privilege. So I just want to name that. But I came up in a scene. The slam scene is very competitive and very much about the audience and catering to them, and it's nothing but freedom outside of that.
And I'm very intrigued by your notion. Your work explores spirituality and sexuality. Are they related? Two sides of the same coin? Different strands? Okay,
absolutely.
So can you unpeel that further?
Well, you mentioned my play, Hands Above the Covers. The full title is Hands Above the Covers, Hairy Palms, and Other Nightmares of a Church Kid. I grew up fundamentalist Christian. And, speaking in tongues, laying on of hands, the prophet, all of those kind of things, and has spent the last 20 plus years practicing Buddhism. And so the play originates from a poem actually called Church Kids, in which I say, isn't this a form? This is not sex as religion, this is religion as sex. And isn't there something about the supplication, the posturing of supplication, the begging for forgiveness, the asking for permission? Isn't that inherently sexual? Isn't it inherently at least in our bodies? And our bodies are where we hold our sexuality.
That is fascinating. And you also also are a burlesque performer. Is that correct?
I do burlesque. I do indeed.
So how does that interweave? How does that interweave with this conversation?
Burlesque has allowed me. I'm a very from observation, I'm a very female-bodied person. I'm very curvy. I'm short. I don't have androgyny is not something that is explicit in my body, and yet it's explicit in my being. And so burlesque gave me a chance to explore what it means to be believed. I talked to actually Monique about this when we were preparing for the show a little bit, about how I was free to be believed how I was presenting myself on a burlesque stage. So I almost every one of my routines explores moving from a very femme presentation to a more masculine presentation, or vice versa, and what it means to mutate between those edges comfortably, as if they are simply a costume that is the most glittery and shiny for me for the day, which is also full inspiration from Prince.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And you have something to read for us now. I wonder if you would mind doing so.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I'm going to read a few poems from the new work that I'm exploring, which is all about the things that haunt us. And I speak a lot about the iconic things, the iconic people and images. I talk about Prince and Whitney. Aretha Franklin is another ghost that haunts me, but I'm going to start with a plum. My girlfriend saves me a plum, says, take it to work and eat it for lunch. And I take it 3 days in a row because I get busy and forget to eat, and the plum ripens. By day 3, almost too much. By day 3, I do not want to disappoint my girlfriend by bringing home the plum again. And so on my way home, I decide to eat it. I'm hungry and I'm guilty. It is almost wasted. And what a shame it would be when my girlfriend, who loves plums, has set this one aside for me. Because it is day 3 and almost too late, when I bite into the plum, it bursts, an explosion, thick sluice down my palms, across my glasses, bursts juice up my nose, sticky bits on the eyelashes, and mouth full of sweet, sweet, almost too ripe plum, mouth spilling with the wet coming apart. I laugh at the disaster it has become on my face, at how there are no napkins in the car, and here I am, fists full of fruit flesh, barely clinging to pit, nothing but my tongue to lap it up. I laugh because this plum seems to know me in my secret better than I could know myself, knows of jealous need to be the special desired thing set aside for my lover's mouth, knows better than me what it is to be both wanted and freely given away, because what else is it to be in love? The truth is, I want to be a plum in her mouth. I want a bursting so ready, I come out my skin. I want to be desired down to the pit, to end hangy fibered between her teeth, sucked in sweet satisfaction. When she says she loves, no, really, really, really loves plums, I want her to mean me. And maybe that plum knew I needed 3 days to truly understand the mess I am willing to make to be consumed. Shortly before Prince died, it was in the same year that I lost my mother and my guru. And so Prince, in a lot of ways, was my third death, if you think things come in threes. And I went to a concert for my birthday. I bought myself a Prince ticket. And I went to this concert, and I had a magical moment there. And since 2016, I have been wanting to write about this magical moment. And I think I've started to get there, and this is that poem. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Prince fan, but I dressed for him that night, like you would for the funeral of a favorite auntie who taught you all about sex before giving her life over to the Lord. Nothing low cut, all black, subdued purple lip. And I knew it was important what I wore. It didn't matter that I was in the 400s block with a $63 ticket, one row from the outer wall of the Oakland Arena. I knew I was to be seen that night by himself. It didn't matter that this was an add-on show after last night sold out at $1,000 a pop in a more intimate venue. I knew, I could feel it. Prince had something special in store for me, and he did. And it happened. Prince looked directly into my eyes the way he do, you know, kind of sideways and flirting. And it didn't matter that miles away on the floor, rich white people saw him cycle by on his white bike, lifelike, could smell his funk and perfume, or that we connected through a jumbotron. Prince, larger than life, looked at me and we both smirked. Like he knew that I knew secretly this is all for me in my mourning clothes, still crying for my mama. It didn't matter that moments earlier, God shone on his scalp through the halo of his afro like an invitation to come on home. Prince and I made eye contact. He saw me, even though he'd grown iconic. What can a symbol know about tomorrow? And so I waited after the show, patient in the parking lot, for his limo to pass by, knowing he'd give me a chance this time to say goodbye. I have one more short poem for you. This one's for Whitney. A list of things not right, but okay. Oh, this trash fire world. This rubber burn stench, this excrement on old frosted donut of a president, of a judge, of a government, of a society, of a world. Oh, this happiness springing eternal in this muck. Oh, this muck, this soil-rich, manure-laden muck. Oh, the storm. Oh, the earth swallow. Oh, the torrents, the torment, the refusal to feed and clothe and shelter our own. Oh, these dead, tired ancestors, these gone talents in times of need. Oh, the celebrity celebrated death. Oh, the truth unpeeled, the misdeeds. Oh, stripped away too soon, stripped away to reveal villains. Oh, my silent complicity. Oh, the villainy of loving what chooses to do ill, the villainy. Oh, your silent complicity. Oh, laid aside beliefs and our utterances before we were woke. Oh, the fallacy, how we play hypocrite to our own natures. Oh, self-righteous anger. Oh, indignant growth. Oh, the pitiless setting aside once we learn. Oh, late bloom of compassion. Oh, fiery mantle of justice. Oh, justice, and the stake we are tied to. Oh, the stench, the stench. Oh, the world burns and us with it. Call it not right, but call it. Thank you.
Thank you. The wonderful Amber Flame. Amazing. If you're just joining us, this is the Red Hen Press Poetry Hour presented by the Broad Stage. And I'm your host, Sandra Tsing Loh. And next we have our featured guest coming to the Broad Stage in 2021. And that's Monique Jenkinson. And the 60-second intro. Artist, performer, choreographer, and writer, Monique Jenkinson made herstory as the first cisgender drag queen to win a major drag queen pageant. Her solo performance work has been featured at Joe's Pub, the New Museum, Stonewall in New York City, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, ODC Theater, the Stud, Counterpulse, and the Jijong Museum. She's created space for kids to dress drag queens at a major museum and also has created college curricula. She played The Dirt, originated by Justin Vivian Bond in Taylor Mack's Lily's Revenge. Her drag queen persona, Fauxnique, crosses cabaret and contemporary dance. Fauxnique's The F Word, as I mentioned, will come to the Broad Stage in 2021, come hell or high water. It will. So, and Monique's section will start with a live reading that she'll be doing, and it's a section of her forthcoming memoir, current working title, Faux Queen. Welcome, Monique.
Thank you so much. So shall I launch right in? So this memoir is it's sort of the seeds of this were some of the solo shows I've done. And the tiny slice of a chapter I'm going to read is from one of the early chapters. And the only thing you need to know is that it's the first time I get dragged to a drag show by my gay bestie. And that's the person I reference. And the name of the chapter is It's Like a Kind of Torture to Have to Watch the Show. I rode my bike through the wet, windy, cold night to the corner of 9th and Harrison and locked up at a parking meter. I found Kevin inside and we sidled up to the bar, a lopsided mess, sunken in the middle from the rot caused by decades of beer puddles. This place was a landmark. Its rotten bar, a monument to the legacy of a 40-year nonstop bacchanal. This is the stud, by the way. Club soda for me, I said, reminding Kevin that I had dance class in the morning. Over the sound system, right after Propeller Head's History Repeating featuring Miss Shirley Bassey, I detected a sound from childhood. The opening theme to The Muppet Show. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like a kind of torture to have to watch the show, the old men Muppets sang. Come on, let's get closer to the stage, Kevin said as he guided me away from the bar. The Muppet Show theme means the show's starting. I kind of already loved the show, and it hadn't even started. What's not to love about drag queens who, at the outset of their show, admit their affinity with Muppets? We paddled through a sea of people. There were trans femmes of all stripes, from the imposing Miss Chocolate at the front door to gals in sensible pumps and daytime realness to glam working girls. Then there were cute boys and baby dykes, big-bellied bears, long, tall man ladies in messy wigs and just a smear of lipstick, and more than a few gay boy, gal pal combos just like us. Everyone was pliant and friendly as we pushed past. When we found a good spot, the strapping guy in front of me stepped aside so I could squeeze forward to see better. Thanks so much. It's my first time. Work, he shouted and raised his pint glass. The word really would have been work, but the sassy E and Q and U were implied in his joyous, haphazard delivery. This wasn't the first time I'd encountered this word as a cheer, an exclamation of encouragement that had started in drag communities but had rippled out into the larger gay culture and would continue to ripple out, meaning everything from "you'd better take this moment seriously" to "amen." The show created some illusions, of course, as drag shows must, but totally shattered others. This was not the mocking bitch fest of radical feminist lore. No, my sisters. The week's theme was Riot Girl, drag queens embodying the musical heroines of Generation X, my generation. The show opened with the hostess, Heklina, big-shouldered, barrel-chested, and named after an Icelandic volcano, lip-syncing to PJ Harvey's Sheila Nagig. I'm going to take my hips to a man who cares. She reclaimed her feminine power. I shed a tear of joyous kinship. Next up was a beautiful gap-toothed monster named Renteka, after her place of employment. She worked at a first-generation startup called Rentek. She threatened to graze the ceiling as she took the stage with Rockstar by Hole. When we caught her stage dive on the Do It For The Kids, Yeah outro, it was a testament to our punk-schooled capacity for cooperation that nobody was crushed. We all knew we had to participate in order to stay alive. Renteka's body thrashed in our hands like a giant squid in a net. As I grabbed her ankle to keep her aloft, I got a close-up of her huge foot in a low-heeled sandal, long toes hanging over the front edge, what in drag parlance is known as serving shrimp. And I realized she must be 6'5" without them. The hugeness of these men, the undeniable presence of their masculinity, simultaneous with their idolatry and embodiment of the femininity and even the feminism of Riot Girls, no less, moved me. And they did all of this while lip syncing, pretending to sing. The layers were many and the feelings were deep. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to read the whole thing. What a journey. And I think that the audience would like to know, I believe you began as a ballet dancer. You're a classically trained dancer, right? And
trained as a ballerina. I sort of got out of ballet, right, like just before I would have sort of been forced to go professional or kind of take the professional route. So I sort of took took a 180 away from ballet and went to Bennington College and did contemporary dance. So I kind of went from like this to, like something else. and then sort of circled back to ballet through drag.
Oh, can you, how so? Well, I know that you do, and I'm so excited that the audience will get to see the sizzle reel for your show, where you're a ballerina, you're Liza Minnelli. I mean, you're all these incredible icons. And what for you is the difference between the ballerina world and the drag world?
Right. So this is interesting. When we were kind of warming up for this and had a preliminary conversation, Amber Flame and Judy Grahn and I, we talked about this a little bit. This actually came up when I was giving a talk at a university, and one of the young women asked what was more feminist, ballet or the drag world, and I said without hesitation, drag. Which funny, she kind of, poor dear, was sort of thinking ballet was this sort of sisterhood, and no, not so much. I mean, maybe is a sisterhood for some people. I can't speak for other people's experience of ballet, but it was, kind of talk about like the oppressive tropes of femininity. But curiously enough, I circled back to ballet as a drag queen because, when the power of being a drag queen is, you're working in a mode of comedy. So no one is expecting you to be graceful or beautiful or, or skinny or any of those things that you expect ballerinas to, or for it to look easy. And weirdly enough, when I started doing it as a drag queen, I figured out I wasn't actually that bad at it. And so it was the kind of, Judy was talking about reclaiming. I was kind of able to reclaim ballet as a drag queen. And that was powerful.
Right. And I think there's this sense of companionship in the drag world. I think, sharing a wig or the better lipstick or
sure.
Right. Have you felt that? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the sort of legendary bitchiness of drag queens for me has happened, on stage only for the most part. So there really has been like, oh girl, like don't buy that wig, I already have it, or here, you forgot your lash glue, I have some, and let's put it, you have some silver spray paint and 2 toilet paper rolls, like let's build a prop and put on a show. It was really a way of experiencing community that I had talked a lot about, but never really experienced until the drag world took me in.
So we're going to see the sizzle reel in just about a minute, but to set it up for the audience, can you talk just for a moment about the evolution of your show, The F Word, how it came to be in your mind and how it came to fruition?
Yeah, well, I started working on The F Word. I had done some of the pieces in it, years before, but I started working on it in 2015 when kind of feminism was becoming a buzzword that the larger culture was starting to talk about. Beyonce had put it up in lights, and people were kind of arguing a lot about, what is feminism, who claims feminism. The word intersectional had just sort of come into common parlance. And although, that was 2015, and then I premiered the show late 2015 and kind of premiered it proper in early 2016. And I like to think, my feminism was so cute. My rage was so cute in 2015, and like my rage is so off the charts now. So, but yeah, it was kind of this reckoning with, to see drag through the lens of feminism and feminism through the lens of drag, and to, make a show and talk about feminism in a way that was through this lens of humor, kind of making fun of itself. So yeah, that's why I made that show. So this is The F Word.
Here, let's play the sizzle reel. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
F is for Fauxnique, and F is for feminism. Yes!
F is for fun and fantastic. So
Thank
we're all going to be
you.
there. We're all going. If you're just joining us, this is the Red Hen Press Poetry Hour, brought to you by the Broad Stage. And now we're going to bring back Judy Grahn and Amber Flame for a moment. You meeting again. I know you guys met last week and had an initial chat. Just what thoughts you guys have about any of the F words or any of the M words of what you've seen thus far. Judy, you have any thought? I mean, how much this has changed in the time since you got swept up by the revolution?
Oh, well, you know, I have some segments of history, and one of them started out in gay bars and mixed gay and lesbian bars that were underworld places, and they were populated by drag queens. That's one of the things that that came out in talking with Monique and Amber. Was a memory that the drag queens were so courageous. And, you know, they were outrageous. They didn't put up with anything. And I was at that moment, I was just so oppressed as a lesbian. It was just a state of depression, looking for some way to fight back. And they gave me the first clue of how you fight back. You fight back by being who you are and making fun of the people that are opposed to you, even though they threaten your life. You make fun of, outrageous fun of them. That was my first clue that it was possible to fight back. And then feminism, and lesbian feminism especially, which we call gay women's liberation, was that really was fighting back on our own terms. We thought of ourselves as warriors. We never thought of ourselves as victims. We rescued other women from battering situations and ways that they were neglected by the state, and single mothers trying to raise their kids. And, you know, we just took charge of our world, and we literally wore combat boots and strutted around and looked for trouble. And founded our own institutions and helped the masses of women get out into the world. Women who had been cloistered away in marriages with laws that allowed rape and didn't give them any money, and husbands could give them lots of children and withhold all the funds. You know, just all manner of things. Women couldn't get credit cards or mortgages or stuff like that. And all that was fought for, and things were changed. And now I see, you know, we're in another kind of crisis state where everything that was carefully created through the 80s and 90s is being taken apart. And so we're in a defensive place now. We're allowed lots of expression, but we can see that the foundation's crumbling. And the question is, now what? The question is, now how do we be warriors again? And for what? Toward what? Toward what new world, as C. Bain was saying? What is that new world that the poets glimpse? How do we describe it?
Amber, do you have thoughts?
You know, it was so funny that you, I agree. There's a new examination that's going to have to take place now. But I have so much, and I think Sandra, you might relate. I have so much faith in the young people because these aren't even questions that they're asking. They're just statements of fact. And I go back to what I said about even with Black imagination, that it exists. It's just existing without the gaze of the other, essentially. So what happens when we are at war for our own peace and our own reckoning? What happens when we are sure that we deserve the freedom to be our full selves and to be honored for our full selves? And so we grant that to everyone around us as well. There's this assumptiveness that the young people are having, and I say this as a not old person. I thank you for the younger feminism. I'll take it. but whenever I work with youth, I'm just like, I'm so shocked because it's not a struggle. There's no struggle. There's just this sort of acceptance, and then what next? And they're already beyond the questions that we get mired in. So what happens when you create yourself, for your own happiness, without needing the approval of the gaze, whatever that gaze is. And we have made such great strides, but I also think about the Twitter threads that go viral where it's like, women talking. There's one recently that just cracked me up. It was a lesbian who was like, "What's it like to have sex with men?" And the comments were just like, it's like when you're disappointing. It's like when you're this. It's like when you're that. And I'm just like, wow. How sad. Straight women have it so awful. It must suck to be in love with men like that. Like there's this sort of we take ourselves back. We take ourselves back by saying we're not allowed to have what we want. And if we just push forward with like, this is my happiness, this is my joy, and I'm moving towards it. And it doesn't have to look like your joy. Judy and I are on the same team, even though Judy's joy looks different than my joy, and my joy looks different than Monique's joy, and Monique's joy will look different than Sandra's joy. And how wonderful and celebratory that can be. And I think there's an opportunity with feminism now to really join in that celebration. Without having to be like, where is my place in it? It's like you actually get to tell us. You tell us, where's your place in it? And we'll say, yeah, right on. Let's do it. That's how I feel about it now.
Monique, you have a response to that?
Too many. I mean, the idea of creating yes. I mean, that we are all, we're in it together and respecting difference, but also, elevating and allowing for places of commonality. I mean, I think this is where, intersections, Venn diagrams, all of the metaphors are useful. And something you said about creating yourself, and I wrote down a few things that came up in both of your readings, which were both so beautiful, but interstitial joy. I love, just as a body person, that idea of, the interstitial fiber, kind of where the joy gets in. I think thinking about interstitial joy right now is important on days like today that can be so, so hard. But I think, the way we get through this is together, and with curiosity, and Judy, something you said about, making fun, the drag queens and playing with power and making fun of power, and, taking power through humor, is something that, I'm really invested in. I love this, your phrase that the storm of feminism picked you up. I mean, I feel like the storm of drag kind of picked me up, with my feminism as well. So
yes, and it's not a revolution if I can't dance to it. I think there's something that is so joyous, interstitial or not, about this evening, about your guys' work, that's fierce in all the different ways. And I think that we certainly all, are looking for joy in this particular time, and fun and laughter and ways to fight back using all these different modes of expression. So I think we celebrate RBG today and all the feminists and women and humans that have come before. Thank you for this really fantastic discussion. And we will look forward to seeing your show in April.
Thank you. I think, yeah. Thank you.
We'll be seeing it. Okay. Thank you.
That's right.
That brings us to our very final guest of the night, who almost needs no introduction, but Erica Jong is a celebrated poet, novelist, and essayist. And as you all know, Fear of Flying, her breakthrough book, blew conventional thinking about women, marriage, and sexuality out of the water. Published in 1973, it has never been out of print and has sold 37 million copies and been translated into over 45 different languages. She's gotten many, many awards, and her poetry has appeared in the New Yorker, LA Times, Paris Review, and many, many, many more. And she is a fantastic writer, fantastic person also. And how appropriate that Erica Jong will be taking us out this evening.
Hi, this is Erica Jong doing my first Zoom poetry reading, and I'm thrilled to be with Red Hen Press. The breathing of the world's continual breathing, is what we hear and call silence. I hear the breathing of the world, the muffled screams of the hungry, the dance of anger in the lungs, the sharp intake of breath when danger comes. I hear the beautiful breathing of babies, the moaning of mothers giving birth, the low susurration of lovers cooing like doves, the leaves greenly breathing of spring, the snowflakes breathing silent snow. Breath is what lets us know we are alive. Breath is love, is affirmation, is spirit stretching out to bless the flesh. Breath is blessing. Surely we are blessed. Child on the beach. The Mediterranean is black with bodies, as in the time of the Trojan War, when Homer sang of bloody battles and heroes lay unburied beneath the topless towers of Troy. But this little boy of 3 sleeps unburied on a beach. Where is he from? The chemical fog of Syria, the garbage dumps of beautiful Beirut, the chaos of civilization come undone. He rests, his parents lost, his sisters drowned, his brother thrown up on another beach. What shall I do with this dead toddler who breaks me open to grief? I will adopt him, my nameless grandson, welcome him into my shattered breast. His death so sweet, even cherubs weep, and nereids float him in their seaweed boats. Little one, now you are mine. Sleep in my arms while I sing you this lullaby. Maybe you'll awaken in a kinder world where children don't die at the edge of the sea. Meanwhile, dream of peace for this broken world.
The incredible Erica Jong taking us home at the end of this Red Hen Press Poetry Hour presented by the Broad Stage. I've been your host, Sandra Tsing Loh, and thanks to our guests, Erica Jong and C. Bain, Judy Grahn, Amber Flame, and Monique Jenkinson, whose show, The F Word, by Fauxnique, comes to the Broad Stage next spring. So, and join us on October 16th for the final installation of this particular season. It will be pre-election time, so if you are anxious about that, join us. It'll be like a big warm hug with poetry and thought in the middle. So thanks so much for joining, and have a great night, and see you next time.